Let me see if I can hit record. Oh, I
Oh,
think
I
it's
hit
recording.
record.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. It is recording. I did promise you guys that I was going to record this. I know that during the summer we also have something similar to this, but because there's different people kind of walking through the application, that sometimes you may get some other tips, right? So I wanted to make sure that we record this as well for those that couldn't make it to today's session. I know that it's at 5 o'clock and sometimes you have places to go, but we do want to thank you. We do appreciate that you making the time to be here to work on this. Like I said, like I mentioned earlier, we take the UC application really seriously because not only is it a tool or a way to get in through admission, but it is also a UC app. It's also a financial kind of like tool as well. It's a scholarship application as well for most students that are interested in applying to UC. So good evening, everybody. My name is Jackie. I am one of your facilitator today. I have Izelle. She's going to be our facilitator who will be walking through the UC application, kind of just helping you navigate all the sections from section 1 to section 3. There will be another sessions like this next week where we will go over section 4 to 6. So today, let's stay focused on section 1 to 3. And if you have any questions, we're going to be here to answer them. Again, Miss JR, she's going to be here to help us with Q&A. So feel free to use the Q&A feature to drop in your questions as we're navigating through each of the sections, okay? All right, if you are ready, I hope that you are in the right place. So before we get started, I wanted to kind of ask you if you can please use the raise hand function or the reaction function to let us know that you are a fall 2024 applicant. Are you a fall 2024 applicant? It's okay if you're not a fall 2024 applicant because we like students that are prepared. So it's totally okay if you are in this session, but this session is designed for fall 2024 applicant because you are applying this year, right? Like you're submitting this application this November. So perfect. Thank you so much for your engagement. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next section. Here's a quick overview for today. So we're gonna do a quick welcome. That's what I'm doing right now. Again, Izelle is going to do a walkthrough section 1 to 3. Myself and JR are gonna be answering Q&A, Q&A feature. So if you have any questions throughout the process, you are more than welcome to drop those questions in there so that we can answer them for you. And then we also will stop and then do Q&A live as well, okay, for the remainder of the time. This session has about, I think, an hour and a half. So hopefully we can get everything done. But if we do end on time and if we do finish everything on time, we are more than welcome to also provide you some tips for PIQ. Okay, so we will talk about that as well. All right, so here's some housekeeping item. Please use the Zoom function like the raise hand for engagement. You can use the reaction function. If you're loving the content so far, go ahead and use those reaction function. Give us some love, give us some happy faces, right? But if you're like question mark, like, oh my God, I'm confused in this section, so use the question marks, right? Like just let us know where you're at. Questions that you pose, please try to stay relevant to the topic today. Again, we are going to be discussing the UC application section 1, 2, 3. So again, I want to be really focused on getting those 3 sections done so that we can be ready for the next sections for next week, okay? And potentially we might not be able to answer all of the questions because with the allowed time, but if that happens, please let us know. And then you can always use the Find My Advisor for UC Davis, and you can always reach out to your assigned UC Davis advisor. And then one last thing before I hand it over to Izelle, I want to go over timeline. This is so important because as you're working on the UC application, you need to know when you need to turn things in, right? So the UC application, the filing period is between October 1st to November. There is no brownie points, extra brownie points, right, for you when you're turning it in super early. Rather, we want you to really take your time, demonstrate, like your accomplishment, for example, like really put your best foot forward before you actually turn it in. I always like students who are really prepared, but again, you don't get brownie points, extra brownie points for turning in super early and then find out later on that you have an error in your UC application. That's like my worst nightmare. So I like for you to kind of work diligently, carefully, and making sure that everything in the UC application is accurate and it's demonstrating the best of you, right? So, but know that it is due November. So before you spend and celebrate Thanksgiving, please turn in your UC application, right? And then one more thing is that after the application is submitted in January, you will get an email reminder, but I want you to put a reminder on your calendar as well to log back into your UC application and submit your TAU. Okay, during that time, you will also have to go to My Admission portal at each of the UCs that you're applying to and create your My Admission login, right? And that allows you to kind of see and find out later on, like if you're going to get admitted or not, right? So make sure, put that down in your calendar in January to go back and update your TAU, right? Submit your TAU, and then also create a My Admission access. And then don't forget to submit your FAFSA or California Dream Act, okay? I should have written like or because it's not like both, but it's just one or the other. It's either you qualify for the FAFSA or you qualify for the California Dream Act. It's one or the other. And it should be open around December. There are some changes in FAFSA and the California Dream Act this coming year. So they kind of like push it out a little bit later. So they probably will have it open around December, and then the deadline don't change. So please just make sure you go back to have it submitted by March 2nd. And then for decision, most of the UC campuses, they do send out decisions around, I would say like mid-March or like mid-April or end of April. So just make sure you log in and you check your email diligently during this time, and not just your inbox, okay? Make sure you check your spam inboxes as well. And then in June 1st, that's when you have to log into your My Admission and submit your yes or no. And it's really simple as that. It's not like a fancy statement of intent where you have to write them a letter and letting them know, hey, I'm going to your school. It's really just simple. You log into your My Admission portal at that school that you're going to, and then you just hit yes or you hit no. And then last thing, that's all it is for the timeline. So please make sure you take a picture of this just so that it can keep you on track, okay? And that's basically it. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. And then at this time, I'm going to go ahead and have Itzel, can you go ahead and share your screen and walk us through the sections?
Sure, let me do that right now.
Okay, I already see some questions in the Q&A, so I love it. Thank you. Keep coming.
Okay, everybody. So to start off the working session, we make sure that you are all in the UC application website. So if we just type in UC application on the Google website, and then it should be the first link here. And then once you click the first link, this will pop up. And then if you have all of your login information already set, click sign in. But if this is your first time creating an account, or if you are also, if you did apply during high school and you're reapplying again as a transfer student, then please sign in to that like login information that you use when you applied during high school. Okay, so I'm gonna click sign in. And then as Jackie mentioned, we're gonna go over the first three sections of the UC application. And then, so the first section is the About You section. So as Jackie mentioned, please follow along, and then I'll move on until everybody has kind of filled out all of the information in each section. Okay, so right here in the About You section, pretty simple. You're just going to add your personal information. For example, what is your name? So, and this is, you have to add your legal name, so the name that appears on the official documents, birth certificates, passports, and driver's license. However, if you go under a different name, like you have a live name or a preferred name, then you could also add it here as well. If you do have one, just click yes, and then just put the name, your first name, live middle name, and then lived last family or surname. But if you don't, just click no. And then, have you ever had a different legal name, like for example, a maiden name or a legal name change? And then, for example, if you attended community college or high school during your maiden name, and then you're married now or whatever, then you would have to input that like that name that you used previously and stuff, if that makes sense. But yeah. and then the date you were born, so month, day, and year, and then where you were born, so country, state, and city. And then here it's just asking, have you ever attended a California public school? So if it's no, just click no. And if you did attend a California public school, then you should, in your high school transcripts, if you do have it on hand, it should state the SSID or California SSID number. So this question is not required, and then it could be a bit hard for some students to kind of get a hand of that number. So if it's too much of a hassle to obtain that number, you can leave this blank. However, if you have access or you think you can get it by contacting your high school counselor or anything like that, feel free to put it in there. Just that way the UC application or the people who review your UC application are able to kind of see your high school transcripts directly. But yeah, before I move on, so oh, you guys can't react. Okay, so I'll move on to the contact information, but I'll try to check the Q&A if you do have any questions. But let me move on to contact information.
Isel, there was a really good question in the Q&A. Thank you for doing that pause every time you move on to the next one. I really appreciate that. So there was a really good question in the Q&A. It was asking about the tag, right? So let's say if you were one of the students that applied for the tag this year, right? The results for Davis don't come out until what, like mid-November. So you know, part of the contract, it does say that you have to also work on your UC application. I promise you, just go back to your contract in the tab portal and read your contract. The contract said you need to turn in a UC application and you need to put in the school that you tag to with the major that you're thinking about applying to, that has to kind of like match that. Oftentimes we do advise students to wait until they get the tag decision so that they can kind of strategize whether they should apply it in that same major or if they don't have eligibility to pick an alternate major. So it's really up to you. But if you're consistently working with a UC Davis, you know, undergrad advisor, then you should know where you stand. And they could also transparently tell you like how to kind of navigate, you know, with this year's application. So if you have been working with us, cool, you're on track, you know, unless you're told otherwise. But yeah, part of the tag requirement is that you have to submit a UC application and it has to be saying Davis or the school that you're thinking about tagging to. And it also needs to match the same major. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
Okay, cool. I see that Gregory Sanchez has his hand up. I will allow you to talk just in case to see if you have a question. Gregory, do you have a question?
Yes, sorry. I was just wanting to make sure that the SSID number that they're asking for, is that the same as the state ID number that's found on my high school transcript?
If it's a 10-digit number, then it should be that one. But it's not the same as your student ID from your high school. It's yeah, but
Perfect. Thank you.
no worries.
Great question.
Okay, cool. So let me move on to contact information. And then if you all have any questions during a section or anything like that, feel free to like raise your hand and I can unmute you for you to ask a question live. Okay, so in this section, we're just going to add our home address. So this address is your permanent address, and then so address line 2, if it applies to you, apartment, suite, unit, floor, building, and then city, state, and zip code. Also, something that I forgot to mention is the blue info section. So if after the session you still have trouble filling out the UC app, you can also look at these like blue info signs and then just click and they'll get more information how to fill it out as well. Okay, so and then as well in this section, is this where we should send mail? So is this like a home address that the UC can send mail to? So then you just click yes or no. And then if it's no, you would just add the other mailing address. And then afterwards, they ask for what is your phone number, and then just input your phone number, and then if it's cell or home, and then if you authorize text messages, you don't have to check mark it, but that's just like an option for you. And then check mark it as well if it's an international phone number. And then afterwards, do you have an alternate phone number in case we can't contact you? This isn't required, but if you do have another phone number that can contact you, and put yes, and then put the phone number, and then if it's home or cell, and then if you don't, just click no. And then it's also asking, can we share your contact info with UC campuses and programs? If you check this option, so you'll probably receive like mail from different UCs or status updates or anything like that. So if you would like to get more information regarding that, I would click I authorize the UC to share my contact information, but if you're not comfortable with it, it's totally okay, and you can just like uncheck mark it. But yeah, and then always make sure to click save and continue in each section that we work through. That way, all of the information that you are filling out saves. And if you don't click, you'll probably have to start all over again and fill out your info. So please make sure to click save and continue. Okay, so I'll give 1 second if you have any questions. I see any raised hands, but I don't see anything. But so I'll be moving on to citizenship and residency. Okay, so the first question asks, what is your country of citizenship? So this just asks like where you were born and stuff. Oh, well, your country of citizenship. For students who are undocumented, however, they do allow for students to click the option of no selection, because it's considered and will be considered a valid response. So if you are an undocumented applicant, including those with DACA status, you are free to click the no selection option. And then, do you have U.S. Social Security number or a individual taxpayer identification number? And then you can click no or yes. And then I believe this is also optional. You don't have to put the SSN or the individual taxpayer identification number, but it's just helpful to add it. That way the UC that you apply to can have access, direct access to your financial aid application. And afterwards, are you enrolled member of an American Indian or Alaska Native tribe or US? And then just click no or yes. And then California residency for admission purposes. So by the time you attend UC, will you have graduated from California high school? So this is the options I get, and I believe it will change depending on the options you choose. So for example, if I click that I didn't graduate from California high school, it's going to ask me by the time you attend UC, we have attended a combination California high school, adult school, or California community college for at least 3 years. So if that applies to me, I click yes. But if that does not apply to me and I click no, it asks for another question. And are you currently living in California? And then if I click yes, it'll ask like if I lived. So basically these questions are just a guideline to see if you qualify for like in-state tuition. But Jackie, do you have anything to add during like this section?
No, I think you cover it all. The citizenship status is the one that a lot of students ask me about, because I have worked with students who are refugee, who seek asylum. So this section oftentimes is really varies to different situations, right? And then same thing with AB 540. And sometimes students might not have documentation, but they don't necessarily have AB 540 status. And so there's different nuances in this particular section. So if that's you, don't share the information here because it is recorded, but please reach out to one of us or reach out to your assigned advisor, and then we will be able to kind of coach you through it. And then when in doubt, you can always reach out to your transfer center at your community college, and they should be able to also walk you through this as well. But I think you cover everything itself. I also send you a message too, just double check that before you go to the next section.
No worries. Okay, sounds good. So we're going to move on to demographics now. Always make sure to click save and continue. Okay, And then in the demographics, it's just going to ask about ethnicity and ancestry. So this is just for statistical purposes about, so the UC can have a better idea who their applicants are, where they come from, etc. So just the first question, generally, do you consider yourself Hispanic or Latino? Click yes or no, and Hispanic or Latino. And then if that applies to you, just check mark the box that applies to you. Which of the following groups best describes your racial background? And then just check all of the apply. So, and then just check the ones. And then American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian and Asian American, Pacific Islander, Southwest Asian, North African, White Caucasian. So basically you just have like various options and you just click on the ones that apply to you. And for gender and sexual orientation, it's just going to ask you, how do you describe yourself? And this is also totally optional as well. You don't have to include this information. Again, it's for statistical analysis and for that purpose only. Okay. I see that someone, oh, sounds good. So if I don't see any raised hands as of now, I'm going to move on to your background. Okay, so here it's just going to ask about what language did you learn to speak first. So it has three options: English only, English and another language, and other language. For me, it's English and another language. And if that is what you chose, it's just going to ask what other language you speak. And then please tell us more about yourself, check all they apply to you, and then just click on the ones that apply to you. Lastly, are you dependent or a US military veteran or service member? And just click no or yes. But do any of you all have any questions regarding anything from your background section? Okay, so I'm going to move on to your household. The first address that we inputted in the contact or personal information, this is the address that's going to pop up. If you did input another address where they can send mail to, it probably show up here. And then, do you live by yourself? Just click no or yes. Who lives with you at your home address? Spouse or partner, child, parents, or other. Now it's going to ask what was your total income earned in 2022. So here it's just an estimate that you have to input. It doesn't have to be an exact number. Like, for example, you don't have to look at your taxes to be able to input the exact income amount that you got, total income that you earned. It just has to be an estimate. And the purpose of this is just to see if you qualify for programs, scholarships, and the application fee waiver for the UC application. So that's the only reason we'll be needing it. And then lastly, how many people were supported by this income, and then just put the number of people. But do you all have any questions regarding any of the info that was said here before I move on?
I think that section, a lot of times student kind of like work on it, but then they don't know the answer to the income section. And then they kind of just hit save and continue. And if you notice, a lot of these sections, they're not like required questions, right? Like it doesn't have like the asterisk. And so it allows you to kind of click save and continue and move on to the next section. And as you can see in the menu on the right-hand side, there's the navigation menu. You can see all those little check boxes, right? The little check icon. So those check icons are used kind of like as a reminder or telling you like, hey, that section is already done. So one of the tips that I usually give to students is like, before you actually jump in and kind of just black out and start typing out everything, you might want to take a step back and look at that section. Hey, do I have all the information in that section? And really use and stay true to those check marks on the right hand side. I use it for that way so that it tells me like, hey, I know that everything in that particular section is answered and that it's accurate. Now I can go ahead and move on. And if I don't have an answer to something, maybe I should just leave it, like don't touch it, so that I know that I need to go back to it once I have the answer to that particular question. And the income section is also really important, because if you skip that, then when you're ready, like done with everything and you're about to submit your UC application, it might not be able to populate the waiver for the UC application waiver, right? Because it's a lot of the questions that they ask on here, it's predicting a lot of things. And so part of the prediction is the, whether you have eligibility for that UC waiver up to like 4 schools that you can apply for free. And so if you don't fill that section out, that you're not going to get there. They have nothing to kind of calculate, right? So it's really important that you fill that out. There's nothing in the UC application that's not important. There's a reason why they ask it. There's a reason why. And so, so it's, again, the UC application is not just an application for admission. There's a lot. There's services, there's scholarships, right? There's a lot that we use in the UC application. So again, that's just my tip. Like, make sure you kind of step back and look at, okay, do I have all of the answers before I start working on it? Don't black out going into it and trying to fill it out. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, I don't have the answer for that one. So I'm just going to hit save and continue. And then you totally forgot that section, you didn't fill it out.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we're going to move on to parent information. So here it's just going to ask what is the highest level of education for either of your parents. I believe it will look very different for people who are younger than 24. So, but for me, it's just going to ask for education level for just like in general for both parents, and then for me, just in high school. However, there are various options that you could choose from, and then just click the one that applies to you and click save and continue. In statement of legal residence section, here we're just going to ask or answer the would you like to be evaluated for California residency for tuition purposes, and then click yes. So because I filled it out already, this is all of the information that's logged in, but let me edit it so you all can see. Okay, so first it asks, have you been physically present in California for the last 3 years? And if any of the following are true, you should answer no. So you attended high school outside of California during the last 3 years, you worked outside of California during the last 3 years, or you left California for more than 6 weeks in the last year. If one of those or all 3 or 2 or whatever apply to you, I would click no, and then it'll pop like on a different section later on. And then, did you attend high school in California for 3 or more years, and will you graduate or have you graduated from high school in California? Click yes or no. Current or planned immigration status in the United States. So if I click edit, okay, it's here. And then, have you made California your permanent home for the past 366 days or more? Just click yes or no. You must acknowledge the following by checking the boxes below, and then just click both boxes. So if you clicked no, I believe on supplemental section to be able to like be eligible for California in-state tuition will pop up depending on the answers that you put here. However, but yeah, Jackie, do you want to add anything regarding like this section as well?
No, I think this was actually added like I think last year's application. This was actually a new section that it's only been about 2 years old in the UC application. Prior to that, it wasn't there. But I think this is just a way for them to predict, like I mentioned, like a couple of the sections in here, it's just kind of predict, you know, like whether you're going to be paying out of state tuition or in-state tuition, for example. So a lot of this section is literally to kind of help the school determine what that financial aid package going to look like when they send out your decision letters. Alongside with that would be your financial aid package. So just, you know, read the questions very carefully, right? And then answer them. But make sure you understand what you're reading, because it's okay if you're reading it and you're like, I have no clue what I just read, then talk to us. But if you read it and you don't know the answer and you still just randomly press something, that's not something that I would recommend. Like, really understand what you're reading before you hitting something. Okay. But yeah, but this section is just to determine whether you're going to be paying, like, you know, whether your tuition is going to be calculated as in-state or out-of-state tuition.
Yeah, for sure. And if you do have any questions regarding this section, just feel free to put it in the Q&A, and then Jackie or Jacqueline will be able to answer it. Okay, and then before moving on, we're just going to click save and continue. And then once we click save and continue, we're just going to review all of the information we inputted. And then before I move on to campuses and majors, I saw that Jacqueline wanted to answer a question live. What about students with dual citizen? Jacqueline, do you want to answer it?
No, she did not want to answer it live. She wants Jackie to answer it live.
Hey, we want to hear your lovely voice too, Miss JR. But yeah, I can answer that question live. So because the UC application, okay, so let's say if you have dual citizenship, but let's say hypothetically scenario, I have I don't know, Japanese and the United States citizenship, then I probably would put US citizenship, because in the context of you applying to a school that is in the United States, it would probably make more sense for you in terms of benefits, right? To disclose that you have that. Now, let's say if you have dual citizenship, but then you really want to include that, you are always welcome to include that in your, what is it called? Your personal insight section at the very end. There is an additional comment section that you could also include that on there as well. Is there any other places that you would include, JR, for that question?
No, that's probably where I would put it. Or if that dual citizenship was awarded while I was in high school or community college, you know, like fairly recently, I might pop it in educational history, just in case, because then it kind of helps International answer the question about any transcripts from abroad. Yeah, either place is good though. And if we have questions, we'll email you and get down to the bottom of it, okay? And really, everybody, for all of this, communication is the key thing. Please don't sit and wonder and make yourself bananas when you could just pick up the phone or email us and ask a question. Like, we're very communicative, and we do want you to check your email regularly also, because we're kind of old school, and that's the way we will ask you stuff if needed.
But yeah, there's a lot of help available. Okay, so we're going to go to the second section of the UC app, campuses and majors. So in this section, UC values, these are just like the community principles that are applied to all UCs that we have to offer. And then we just have to click the check marks, and that's it. And then click continue. So this part is very important. So just make sure that I plan to start the UC in, it should say fall quarter semester 2024. If you are applying for fall 2024, we have had a lot of students who accidentally have like filed a application for another quarter semester by accident. And then once they go to like the choose campuses section, they don't see a lot of the campuses, or they have like a short list of campuses available they could choose from. And it's usually because of this issue. Okay. And the my application level is, you all should click transfer, because you guys, when you all are up in community college and then have graduated, or at least have graduated high school or equivalent, and then here in junior level transfer, sophomore level transfer, or senior level transfer. So one thing that we want to make sure or make you understand is that mostly all of the community college transfer students are going to apply as junior level transfers. So which means that I will complete 60 to 89 semester units or 90 to 134 quarter units by the time I enter UC. So basically, a lot of community college students tend to have more than this number of semester units or quarter units and think that they should apply for senior level transfer because it says I will complete 90 semester units, 135 quarter units or more by the time I enter UC because they have more than this. However, one thing that we want to make everybody understand is that if you've never taken classes or upper division classes at a four-year university, then you need to, and only taken classes in community college level, then you would have to click junior level transfer if you have completed 60 or 89 semester units or 90, 134 quarter units or more. And then just click other if that applies to you as well. But feel free to raise your hand if you need more clarification during this part as well before we move on to choose campuses.
Yeah, this part is really important. So like if you don't know what level you are, please just reach out to us. We if you have a TAP account and you disclose everything on your TAP account, we should be able to tell you like, which one to click on. A lot of my students started working on the UC application when it opened in August and they put in the wrong term. So that's the first boo-boo. They put in the wrong term, so they didn't get like all of the options for the UC and the majors. And then the second thing that they did wrong was this section right here, because when you first create an account, this was the first thing that you're going to see that you have to click before it kind of allow you to go into what you see right now on the screen. So this part is really important and it varies from student to students. Oftentimes student thinks that, oh wait, I'm only about 40 units, right? Like I'm not done with 60 units yet. So right now where I stand, I should hit sophomore. And no, the answer is by the time that you're going to be enrolled at that university by fall of 2024, how many units do you have that are UC transferable? And then the second thing is for junior level standing, a lot of times students put senior standing and they're not senior standing because if you had never gone to another UC, if you had never gone to a four-year university and taking upper division classes, and if you only had been at the California Community College system and you can have like 1,000 units, you still consider as a junior standing level when you're applying. So it's really important, to separate between each of the levels, right? So most of the time, if you had only been at California Community College, most of the time, like 10 out of 10 times, you're probably saved by clicking on junior level standing. But let's say if your academic record is a little bit more complex, like meaning you have international records, like meaning you have upper division classes, or you have been enrolled at a four-year university, like when you have a little bit more of complexity, please reach out to us and we'll be able to let you know where you stand. Okay, just to make that clear. So don't click on the wrong one, because depending on what you click on, the application is going to give you like the application based on that particular standing, right? So if you hit on sophomore, you might not get certain parts in the UC application. Same thing with seniors, same thing, right? So just make sure you click on the same one. If you are applying as a second batch, right? Like you already have a bachelor's degree and you're applying as a second batch, then you would have to click other, okay? Because it said right there that you already have a degree, okay?
Yeah, just as Jackie mentioned. So before, please raise your hand if you do have any questions that you want to ask right now live. But if not, I'm going to move on to choose campuses. And then before that, I'm going to click save and continue. All right. So in choose campuses, these are you're going to get a map of the California state and then all of the UCs available that you could apply to. And then based on the income that you reported in your household page, it's going to show if you were able to be eligible for a fee waiver. And then, but besides that, just click on the UC campuses that you would like to apply to. And you can click as many as you want or as little as you want. And then once you have clicked all of the ones you will be applying to, just click save and continue. In the choose major section, basically as shown in the title, we're going to choose our majors that we will be applying to. So, and some UCs do allow you to choose an alternate major, not all of them, but let's give you an example. So if I already chose the business administration, however, you would just click choose major and then find the major that you will be applying to, save and continue. And then choose your alternate major. If you choose to, it's not required for the application. However, one thing that we want to mention is that if you will be choosing an alternate major, make sure that it's a major that you have also completed prerequisite for. For example, I applied for Man Econ, but my alternate major would be economics, right? So I can't choose my alternate major to be something very different, super different from Man Econ, for example, like art or dance or whatever, because I haven't completed the prerequisites for that alternate major. So it has to be a bit related to your intended major. And then if you did click San Diego, it's going to ask you what colleges you would like the ranking of them. And if you don't know what this is for or why you're ranking them or what these colleges are for, so UC San Diego lets you choose your ranking from 1 to 8, and then from which college you would like to go into to the least. And then you could get more information regarding what each college basically offers and their curriculum by, I believe, if you go to edit ranking. And then if you go to the link here, I'll give you more information regarding the UC San Diego's college system. But basically just rank up, rank down your colleges that you would like to apply. And once you have finished all of that, click save and continue. But if you all have any questions, feel free to raise your hand right now, or else I'll move on to academic history.
Can you go up to the majors? I do
Mhm.
want to point out a few things. So you can see right here that Isel has the example of all these UC campuses, and then she put a major, right? So the major is a required. You can see that there's an asterisk and there's also like the campus, right? So those are required areas that you have to fill out. And I would prefer that you guys use Assist to kind of like make sure that you are taking the right courses. If you're at the community college, you're taking the right courses to be really, really prepared for that particular major, right? Look at the alternate major. And you see on there, she didn't have anything on there listed, right? Like she didn't put anything for other schools. My recommendation for you is to also look into a second school major at that particular universities. And so by saying that, hey, I'm going to choose economics, the main major that I want to choose is managerial econ for UC Davis, but if I can't get into managerial econ, I'm okay with coming in as an econ major. That's what it means. So sometimes students I would highly recommend to also look at an alternate major, because in case you don't get into that particular one major, then at least you they potentially will look at an alternate major if they deem that you're a competitive applicant, and they just don't want to let you go. They're like, I want to keep this person, I want them to go to my school, but then we really, really want to, but that major is so packed already and whatnot, whatever the reason is, right? So they might be able to consider you for an alternate major, and if you don't list anything there, then they don't have anything to base it on, right? Even if there's a potential spot for you. So I would recommend that you fill out that section out too, regardless if the UC campus process alternate major or not. In the past, Davis didn't for a transfer student, but last year we did. And so it kind of varies from year to year, and depending on selection and depending on the pool of applicant for that particular year. But when in doubt, I always recommend, like, it's okay, it doesn't hurt you if you put in alternate major, just in case the main major is not you don't get admitted through that main major. Does that make sense? Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Darren, let me see if I could. bring you up. Darren, go ahead. What's your question?
Hi, Jackie. I was just wondering, so if we are accepted for our alternate major, is it possible to change back to our original major when we get accepted?
Sorry, I muted myself. It would depend on school. Like, I can't say all of the schools is going to allow you to do that. So it's really depending on from school to school, and then the major. Oftentimes, legally, you can change major, right? Like, I mean, I changed my major multiple times before I actually graduated. So legally, in technicality, you can change major, but in terms of how likely that's going to happen, it's all depending on one, eligibility, and two, availability, right? Oftentimes students in STEM major, sometimes they're like going in as a STEM major and they're like, oh my God, this is too hard. And then I'm changing out to a different major. That happens. And then that opened up space. But then still, you still have to make sure two things, right? You have eligibility for that new major or whichever major that you're changing to. And then second, there has to be availability, right? So whatever major that they admitted you in, when you decide whether you're going to go to that school or not, when you decide whether you're going to say, yes, I'm going to your school, you have to be okay with, okay, in case you can't change your major, you need to be happy with that. And if you can live with that, then go ahead and accept, admission at that particular school. But I wouldn't say no, an absolute no, that you can't change to a different major once you get to the university. But it's not a guarantee that you're going to be able to change your major either. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I don't want to, keep your hope high. And then when you get there and they're like, I want to be real with you and letting you know, because those are the two things that they usually look for. They look for whether you have eligibility and whether you have, they have availability. It has to kind of match in order for that move to take place. But thank you for your question.
Okay, y'all. So if you all don't have any more questions regarding the section, going to click Save and Continue. We're just going to review after all of our options that we chose and then continue to academic history. So this is the last section that we'll be doing during this working session, which is academic history. So you just click Continue. So you probably all already have a UCTAP account, but if you do have one, you could just transfer over all of the information, all of the coursework that you input in your UCTAP into the UC application, saving you a bunch of time inputting, doing it all over again in the UC application. So all you would do is just put your TAP login ID and TAP email address, and then just click import data from TAP. And then once you click that import data from TAP button, it will import all of the coursework that you put in your UCTAP account. Also, if the coursework that is in your UCTAP account should be updated to this up until this semester or this quarter, just so the UC application doesn't freak out when they transfer over all of the coursework from the UCTAP to the UC application. You're just going to click Save and Continue. And the last high schools attended, you're just so if you transferred over all of the UCTAP information, this is going to input all of the high schools or high school that you attended. So here's mine. But if you are doing it right now, you would just find the high school you attended, the start date, end date, degree, certificate, or diploma you got, month and year you graduated or you received the diploma. And then if you have any international experience, did you attend school outside the US or any other part of high school or secondary school, excluding high school summer session or American International or Department of Defense high school, you're just going to click no or yes and save and continue.
If you can go up a little bit before you go on to the continue for that part, there were a few students that were asking like, hey, if I did an equivalent to kind of like a high school diploma, this is another good spot for you to disclose that. So for example, if you got your certificate, right, for like an equivalent to a high school diploma, this is where you would disclose that information here. And then there was a question earlier in the Q&A that was asking, going back one more for the transfer admission planner. When you go into that section, you want to make sure you put in your login, but then you see how there's a box right there. It's asking whether you are using the same email for this particular one. I always advise students that, if you have a TAP account, you already did all the heavy lifting. When you're working on the UC application, please use the same thing. Use the same email address that you use in the TAP, because you got to keep this in mind. They're two different portals. They need to have a common denominator to talk to each other. So when you submit, when you have a TAP, and then let's say you submit a tag and the tag happened to be approved, for example, right? And you submit your UC application, there needs to be a common denominator for them to be like, oh, shoot, this student has a tag, a guarantee admission. So we need to make sure that we only check like the stuff that we condition the student to have and then process them as a guarantee admission. So again, this part is really critical. So please make sure that you do use that. And now here's another thing. Let's say a student say, shoot, Jackie, I have a different email, but I already did halfway. Like I already got to the last part. Like, does that mean I have to do the whole thing over again? No, you don't have to. The really easy fix is that you go into the TAP. There, under the account information, you should be able to change the email. Remember, this is asking for login ID. It's not asking for email, right? So you can go into your TAP and you can always update that to the email that you want. Sometimes students have like, they use their school email, but then after they leave, they're like, oh, I don't access that anymore. So I'm going to change this account to like my personal email, right? So you can always go back and change that. And then that way you don't have to do the whole entire UC application all over again. That's such a waste of time, right? So just letting you know, you can go back to the TAP and then update the email and then use the same email on here before you import everything. Thank you.
For sure. Okay, so if you have any questions regarding the transfer admission planner or the last high school attended, feel free to raise your hand right now before I move on to those sections. So in colleges, so if your UC TAP transferred, it should probably say all of the community colleges you attended or the one you attend currently. And then here, so if, for example, if I click edit, if you're doing it manually right now, you would search up the community college that you went to or UC or for university, depending on your like background or anything. And then when did you attend this college? Start date, end date. Is this your current or most recent college? Yes or no? And I think this is where it gets tricky for a few people, especially for people who attend two colleges or more than one community college at the same time. So please make sure that your current or most recent college is the college where you have more credits in, or where you take most classes in. And then what is this college's grading system? That should already probably be checkmarked as well. During your attendance, did the college term system course change? No or yes. What is this college term system? Please select all terms when you were enrolled at this college. And these are going to change based on the information that you put in start date and end date. And did you or will you receive an associate for transfer, UC transfer pathway, associate's degree, yes or no? And then if you click yes, put in the associate for transfer when you're expected to receive it. And then save and continue. I see a hand raised. Priya. Oh yeah. Priya, what's your question?
I have a question about the more recent college. So I do go to two community college, but the college that I will be graduating from is CSM, and I have also classes at Skyline. So would I say yes to that question or no?
I will answer this question. She's my student.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi. I'll answer this question. So if your primary school is kind of, remember the TAP, like there's a section like this in there. So you want to stay true to your primary school. So if CSM is your primary school, the answer should be a yes. And even though you're taking classes at Skyline, like right now, and maybe in the spring, you still have to say no, because it's not your primary school. Only one school in the district can claim you as a student. So in this particular part, I would say you can take classes all over the place, but the main school that you're going to graduate from, or the school that you consider your primary school, should be the one that say yes. It should be the only one that you should say yes to, and not yes to the other ones.
Got it. And since CSM will be my primary school, that would be yes for the graduation, right? And for the
Correct.
Skyline, it will be no, because I'm just doing one class for the Skyline.
Yep, correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Then David also have a question too, Isel.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hi, yes, I have a good question about the major associate degree. So I'm not getting that UC transfer pathway degree, but I'm getting the local associate degree from Laney College. So in that case, what should I say on that part?
Did you say that you have you will be doing an ADT?
Local associate degree. It's not associate for transfer.
But it's like an associate degree at
Yes,
Laney,
that's
right?
associate degree. Yes, that's
So
correct.
this question asks particularly the associate degree to transfer,
Okay.
right? So there's an associate degree, and then there's an associate degree to transfer. At the community college, there's different packages. There's different pathway that you guys could do. There's an IGETC pathway. There's an associate degree pathway. There is an associate degree to transfer to a full university pathway, right? There's various different pathways. So if the question asks, degree level, and it say right there ADT, or like associate to transfer, degree to transfer, and if you're not getting that, then you shouldn't put yes, you put no, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Yes. but-
Okay.
Okay. I was thinking about put my local degree, but I would say no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Isel, can you go up a little bit for me?
Yes. Which part?
Oh no, that's it. Yeah, that's the part that if you are getting an associate degree, and then y'all need to keep in mind, to have eligibility for, to transfer to a UCs, no one is saying that you have to have an associate degree. No one is saying that you have to have an associate degree to transfer. No one is saying that you have to get an IGETC either. So those are a good pathway to kind of like maximize your time and to kind of streamline the process to make it really easy. They're trying to make it as easy as possible for you, but by doing so many options, sometimes that could do a kind of like a counter situation where a student can get really overwhelmed. But I just want to tell you that you technically do not have to have an associate degree, an IGETC done, or an associate degree to transfer done before to be eligible to the UC. What you need is the 7 course pattern. What you need is the UC minimum requirement in the major preparation as a transfer student. Those are the skeleton, the foundation that you must make sure that you have in order to be in good standing for transfer. And I think also Heaven has a question too before we move to the next section. Let me see if I could, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's a loud background noise. But I attended UC Davis before as a freshman directly from high school. I dropped out because I wanted to change my major and I was in academic probation. But after that, I dropped out. And now I finished my transfer units in Berkeley City College, and I'm trying to transfer back to UCs in general, not specifically UC Davis, but it's one of my lists I want to go to. So, so now do I have to, like in my record, do I have to put the UC Davis courses I took, or like how does that work?
Yeah.
I
So
thought
if I
And
have
it's
the perfect answer for you. I know the answer to this question.
Okay.
Because I run into students in this situation way too often. So because I think it's because I service Sac City and that's like our local school. So I run into a lot of situations like this as well. So if you are doing a UC application, you can apply to all of the other UCs. But if you can't, if you was a student, if you were a former student, like you, meaning you registered, you took classes, right, for whatever reason, you were an enrolled student at Davis, then in this application, you do not put Davis because you should be working on a process called readmission. And that get processed through the registrar's office. And I can put it in the chat for you in a second. But if you had been a student here, same thing with like any student from other UC's campuses too. Like I had a student I met recently that was a former student from UC Merced, and and they had one semester and they had family issue. It was an academic probation, it was just a family issue, and then now they're applying to Davis. Then if they are applying to Davis, they can just go through the process like this. But if they have Merced as one of the school that they wanted to apply to, then they basically don't select Merced here. Basically they have to contact the registrar's office at Merced to get the process going for the readmission process. So for you literally will be, you can work on this for others UC's campuses, but if you want to return back to Davis, this is way too much work. You should be doing the readmission process, which is a lot lesser work compared to this one.
Oh, so okay, yeah, I get that. Thank you for the explanation. But can I be transferred back to Davis as like I have my associate degree right now, and how does that work? Is that gonna affect me, or do I have to go back as a freshman again, which is I didn't finish my I finished my first year in Davis, but I did not continue. So do I go back as a second year there, or it's gonna be like as a transfer student that have associate degrees?
You will come back not as a freshman, because since you were there as a freshman, you had already taken some classes at the community college. So those are credits that are transferable. And so what's going to happen is that you have to fill out a formal application. It's called readmission. I think I just put it in the chat for you. But you have to fill out that package, and then you have to send it over to the registrar. And what will happen is that they're going to connect you with the dean's office, your major, before you leave, and then kind of work out a plan when you return back. What is that going to look like? Sometimes students might be like, oh, I'm no longer interested in the major that I came in as a freshman. So that's the conversation that you talk to the major advisor, not to us, because we work with admissions, right? So you would be working with the dean's office and the registrar's staff to make sure that, hey, when I'm returning back to school, how is this going to look like? I'm not obviously coming back as a freshman. I'm going to tell you this, you are not coming back as a freshman. If you have been taking classes at the community college, girl, you have some credits. Like, you are not coming in as a freshman. So don't worry about that part, but you do need to carry that conversation with the appropriate people in this process. So for Davis, particularly for your case, I would not continue adding the Davis on this section, but you would want to do the readmission process and then start with the registrar, and they will connect you with the appropriate people to have those conversations in terms of, like, if you're still wanting to major in that particular major and how that looks like and how much more you need to do in order to graduate. Like that, all of that is going to be done with the major department.
That's great information. Thank you so much. And one more. So if I exclude UC Davis from my application, but I'm doing the application still for other UCs too, to see like which one accept me, do I have to put my records from
Davis? Yes, you do.
the application and explain
Yes.
why I dropped out and everything, right?
Yep. Yeah, the application asks for all courses at all institutions that you ever attended. So you have to list everything on there. You have to disclose everything. So yes, in this, you do need to put Davis information on there. It should be under like the course section. The college, and then the college courses. Okay. Okay, time check. We are at 6:06. This session is gonna be until 6:30. So let's go ahead and go through all of these and then we'll come back. I know we have some hands raised. We will get back to you. I just want to make sure that we go through, the rest of the sections and then we'll get back to you. Is that okay with you? I'm gonna go ahead and just leave your hand up and then I will get back to you. But for right now, I want to make sure that we answer the rest of the three. We don't have three more little sections left. So let's get that done first.
So, right. So going to college courses, so if you transferred all of the courses that you added in your CTAB account, they should all be here, but I would just double check with your transcripts just in case that everything is here. And then, but if you are doing it manually, so if you're doing it manually and you're adding all your courses in, you would just find the course that you took during that semester or quarter, and then, for example, this one, and then click here, and then click on the grade that you got. And then click continue. And then for minimum requirements, our minimum requirements are academic standards that you must attain to be considered for admission to the UC system. So for example, it asks prior to transfer, will you have satisfied the entry-level writing requirement? That includes, I believe, English 1A and 1B, and then just click yes or no. Prior to transfer, will you be certified for completion of the intersegmental general education transfer curriculum or the IGETC? And then just click yes and no or no. Here, college, university, English composition, the following. So based on the information that you inputted in college courses, this is what's going to show up if you completed those sections. For example, in my situation, college, university, English composition, it shows that I completed it English 1A, English 1B, and then college, university, mathematics, and then it's going to show up if you completed it. And then just click save and continue. And for the additional information section, it's going to ask, have you ever been on academic probation? And click yes or no. And if you click yes, it's going to ask you like more specific questions about that. The UC transfer pathway that you completed, if you completed it. For example, in my situation, I completed the business admin, but choose the one that applies to you. Or if you didn't, it's totally okay as well. And then in the additional comments section, if you do have a gap or you went away from school for a semester or a year, right, or just anything in your academic history that might be that you want to explain, this is a perfect time to kind of do that. But it doesn't have to be like a long paragraph. It could for example, if you took a quarter off, a semester off, or a year off for family reasons or something like that, you can just put, oh, I took a year off of like school for personal reasons due to this and that. And that should be sufficient information for the people who are reviewing your UC application.
I would say that little gap section right there is that it's kind of like mimicking your UC tab. Like in the school attended section, there's that like second to last question where they ask if there's a gap in your education. Like that would be something that I would copy and paste it in here. And the format that you want to write is always the timeline, like from this year to this year, comma, what was done, like what happened, what was happening, and then period, right? Done. And then this is also, again, same thing like what Isel said. Please do not write a whole PIQ on this thing. Like just really concrete, concise, information. Again, just using that format, like the timeline, comma, what was happening, period, done, right? This is a section that should be focusing on anything academic related. It's not a personal situation. Personal should be in the personal information, like the personal insight. There should be a similar additional comment section in the personal insight question as well that you could put in there, but this one is pertain to your academic history and what was happening during that time. If you had anything that you would want to explain to us, that would be the good spot, or a gap of education, that would be a good spot to answer that. Can you please do me a favor and go back up for a little bit. There was a question in the chat that was asking about the UC pathway. Let's say the UC pathway is very specific, right? There's 21 majors that partake in this particular pathway, and sometimes your major might be on there. Like, for example, Isel has business administration, so it's going to be on there. But let's say if my major was civil engineering, it's not going to be on there. My major was not civil engineering. My major was mechanical engineering, so it was a little bit different. Mechanical engineering is part of the UC pathway, so it's on there. But if you're like aerospace engineering, if you're like any other major that is not on that 21 major list, then unfortunately the answer is no. And don't worry about putting no or don't have anything listed on there. It does not really add like anything to you or take away anything from you. So it's just a matter of like, are you following that? They just want to know, are you following that since you started thinking about transferring? Like, are you using that pathway or are you not using that pathway? But it doesn't give you like extra credit point or anything like that in your UC application. So don't worry about that. And then the last question, I think in the Q&A earlier that was asking the minimum requirement, can you go back to that one more time? Click on the minimum requirement on the right-hand side. And then there was a EL, the one on top. Yeah, right there.
Oh, in the top? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for a community college student, if you are working on the 7-course pattern, meaning like you have your first English and then your second English, oftentimes the answer is yes. And then let's say if you had AP exams, sometimes you might see AP exams like, oh wait, I only took one English class, but because I have AP exam. If you didn't disclose that in your TAP account and you're trying to import it in here, obviously it's not going to have that showing on here because it wasn't in the UC TAP in the first place. So you do need to manually put it in to make sure that you have that AP exam and it will populate on here, right? So they can only populate what is actually imported over, right? So just make sure, you know, you work on that section. But I think that's basically it. I can't believe we went through an hour and a half like that. I thought it was going to be a slow session. I know JR was texting me, was like, I thought you said it was slow. It's not slow. There were so many great questions. I think we had almost close to 100 questions in the Q&A. And JR, you rock. You freaking rock. Thank you so much for answering everything in the Q&A. I really can't believe the fun is over, but it's not over because next week we're going to have the section 4 to 6, and that section, those 3 sections is actually going to be longer. Feel free to look ahead and see if you can answer any questions as we're going through for next week. But if you need help with section 4 and 6, please go to our website and then register to that. We would love to see you again. I think I'm hosting that next week. So if you are not bored of me and you want to see my face and hear my voice again, please log in and engage with me. But I hope we answer all the questions. I think we have about another 15 minutes and I want to make sure that that we give that time back to you. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. I can bring you in or Isel can bring you in and then you can ask your question live. How do we feel? Use the engagement function for me real quick. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel okay? Like, raise your hand if you feel okay. You feel like, wow, that was good. Like, we're getting stuff done. Or it's like, you know, like it's so slow. Was it slow for you? Was it a good pace? I see a lot of good hands. And I also see a lot of thank you in the Q&A. Thank you so much for your affirmations. But yeah, at this time, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and lower all your hands. And I'm going to see if there's any of you that have questions that you want to ask live, and then we'll go from there. So go ahead and lower all your hands right now. We have 15 more minutes. I want to make sure that we give, if we promise you until 6:30, we will make sure we stay here until 6:30. Okay. So go ahead and lower all your hands down, and then the people that have the hands up, I'm going to pick on you to bring you in live, and then you can ask your questions. Okay, so I think Mohammed, I'm gonna go have you in first, and then Heaven, you're next, and then Darren, you're next.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, I have a question that I will get 3 associate's degree in math, physics, and computer science the time when I transfer.
Mhm.
Or should I add it all in my University of California website, or no? If yes, I have to add it. Should I just add it on my home college or all the other colleges that I attended?
Well, you can only have the associate degree at one school.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So should I add all three of those?
If there are space for you to add all three of them, I think there's only space for one. But
Because
if there
it
are,
says add another associate for transfer degree. It has an
Okay.
option.
if they do have another space for you, yeah, go ahead and put that in there. I think that's an accomplishment. Oh yeah, there you go. Is there another one? Is there more than two that you could add? Let me see.
Yeah, you
Oh
can
yeah,
add
You
multiple.
can add more. Yeah. So if it's on there, I would do it because hey, it's your accomplishment, right? Like it's not everybody getting a bunch of associate degrees. You have that. You should be proud of that. It's your time, it's your dedication. I would flaunt it. So I personally would put all of that in there because why not?
Thank
Why
you.
not?
Yes, I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. So let me go ahead and have Heaven, go ahead.
I did not raise my hand, did I? Hello? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I did not raise my hand.
Oh, your hand's raised. Okay. All right. I will remove your permission. All right. Okay. Darren, you're next.
Yeah, so I was just wondering for the last high school attended section, I don't remember the exact month because I transferred from another high school, but I don't remember the exact month. I know the year. Is that like a very important detail that I need to get, or is that?
I would say yes, because I'm kind of like a strict person. Like I'm very to the book. You should reach out like right now, your record in high school is already solid, right? Like you're never going to ever go back to your high school and take some classes. Like for what, right? You're not doing that. So because it's already kind of like solid and done, it doesn't hurt right now as transfer students to reach out to your high school and get a copy for yourself so that when you're filling this out, you're giving the most accurate information that it's going to align the most to your transcript, because at the end of the day, you will be turning in your transcript. Just spoiler alert, you will, if you get admitted, one of the things that they ask you in terms of documentation is your transcript, all of your transcripts, including the high school as well. So it doesn't hurt right now to kind of reach out to them and get a copy of that, and then also get a and kind of be familiar with the process of how to request for an official record. So because a lot of time it's like, oh my god, it's been so long since I request for a high school, right? And a high school transcript, I have no idea what that process looks like at this point. So right now it's a good time for you to kind of like reach out to your high school and kind of understand a little bit better with like how is the process of requesting for the transcript, and then plus can you request for a copy of it, like
yeah I have the official transcript. It's just it says the year, but it doesn't say the month on it.
Most of the time the high school they graduate is it in the United States?
Yes,
most of the time high school graduations is in June.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's in California, if it's in the United States, most of the time it's pretty consistent. High school graduation, unless you graduate early, right? Like I also know a lot of people that graduate high school a little bit early. So those are situationals. But if you're like normal, just like everybody else, they graduate usually in June.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, Jackie, may I make a couple notes?
Yes.
Okay, one, folks, some of you asked on the Q&A about the link for upcoming events, and I threw in a very general one, but Itzel did a much better job, and she found the specific targeted link for you, so that's sitting in chat, and please get a hold of that if you want to come in for part 2 or other workshops. And the other thing, there was a question in the background about from somebody who went to college in another country but didn't sit for final exams. And if you have any situation like that, where you weren't able to complete your coursework, or for some reason you had to jump ship in a hurry, it's worthwhile going back and seeing if you can't clean up that transcript, whether that's formally withdrawing or academic renewal or whatever it might be. And it's better to do that now than to wait till you're almost leaving your community college and you're submitting your final transcript. So do it while you have some time to go see how the university or whatever recorded that situation, right? And just get everything clean for yourself so you can come in with a good, clean record. And if we need to talk, we can do that and nobody's chaotic. All right. There's usually a way through stuff. So I'm going to give you confidence and encouragement to communicate with us if that's going on with you. Thank you, Jackie.
Of course. I also gave you the link in the chat, and I think Isel did also provide that to you as well. If you use the 2 tabs that I mentioned in the chat, you should be able to register to any of them. The group advising is the one that some of you may not be able to, but the Top Thursday sessions and the because we again, I told you at the beginning, we take the UC application so serious, right? Because again, it's not just the admission, it's also a scholarship application. We want you to have money. We want you to be able to get the resources, identify those resources. The school have identified those resources ahead of time. So walking you through this in the manner that we're doing is really important to us, and it's important to you, right? To kind of follow that. And so again, if you like this kind of format, please come back next week. I will be hosting it again. We'll have more fun, and hopefully I can figure out my music situation and I'll play some music at the beginning for y'all. And then one last thing is that I also want to include, earlier we kind of mentioned, like, if you have any follow-up questions, you can always reach out to Find My Advisor. I'm going to put that in the chat as well. So you can go in there, you can put in the link, and then you want to put in your community college name. And then, yeah, you can also access it that way too. If you go all the way down, you can see, yeah, Find My Advisor. And then you can put in your community college name, and then you will be able to find the assigned person. You don't have to repeat the same story with multiple people. Like, you have an assigned staff that is going to walk you through all of this. And Isel was actually one of my students ages ago, but she was one of my students as well. So you can find us on there, and you can email us, contact us. You can also, appointments if they have it available, things like that, whatnot. Do we have any other questions on here? I think, we have one more question raised. Can you allow him to come on? Let me see. There you go. Perfect. Rawson, do you have a question for us?
No, sorry, that was an accident.
No worries. Okay, so 7 more minutes. Are you all good? Okay, Darren, you have another question? Let me see. There we go. Allowed to talk. Darren, you're back.
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, if we're also applying for CSU, is there any sort of way we can import the information from the TAP, or is that a completely different thing?
For CSU, you said?
Yes.
So in your TAP, ideally, step 1 is the TAP. Everything needs to be reported in the TAP. But if you already exported into here, that means that your record and everything that you put in the TAP is the most accurate. So if I personally, I like to work smart. I'm pretty lazy. I don't like to go back and forth, right? That's wasting a lot of time. So I like to start with the TAP, and I input everything in the TAP. There is an option that you can disclose, like the CSU, the UCs, the private school. You can put all of that in there. You can manually put in all the courses that you took at those particular universities, the grades that you had, the GPA that you had. It's not going to be nice as a community college, right? Because they're pulling the search engine, they're using Assist to kind of pull that information over. So obviously, Assist, it's, there's not a lot of courses that is in the CSUs or UCs or private school in that. So you're not going to be able to populate a lot of them. So you kind of have to manually put it in there. So I would do it that way before I input all of this in here. But if you already input it in here and you already check everything so far up to this point, and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot that one class that I took that summer at that CSU, then it's probably smarter to just go from here and then add that manually in instead of going back to the UC tab and trying to do all of that. And then if you submit your tag too, your tag is frozen. So it's not like you can go back to the tab and add anything on there and update anything on there anyways. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, if it's only 1 or 2 or even 1 semester, it would make more sense for you to just like go on here and just manually put it in. There was a question about iGetsy, and then that will probably be our last question. There was a question about iGetsy. The UC do not check or certify your iGetsy. That is a product that is owned by the California Community College system, right? So once they audit you, they will send the worksheet or the certification over to the UC that you tell them that, hey, I'm going to go to the school at the very end. So they usually don't process iGetsy certification until like the very end of the semester, like in the spring, right? So they have, each of the community college has their own timeline in terms of when they're going to process the iGetsy, but they usually, generally, they don't process it until the spring, because at that time the student will know like which school they're going to, and so at that time, if they already submitted their SIR, then you can go back to your community college and talk to, and any counselors can do this. Any counselors can certify your iGetsy. You just need to let them know, hey, I'm going to Davis, or I'm going to Berkeley, or I'm going to Irvine, or I'm going to wherever, right? Can you send the iGetsy over to them, and then they already have all that information, they can send it over to us. Okay, but that's a really good question. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and end our meeting today. Unless I have any other hand raise or questions.
Oh, Mohammed had one, but I'm not sure.
His hand's not on there anymore. Okay. It seems like he wanted to talk too. All right, let's go ahead.
Hi, one
Hi.
last question.
All right.
So I apply for tag on Riverside, UC Riverside. So I was wondering that, do I have to do the application transfer application this way as well, or tag is fine?
Okay, I think I wrote that in the chat. All of the UC, not just UC Davis, if you tag this year to one of the 6 UC campuses, one of the condition, and you can go back, don't take my words for it, but go back to your tab, right? In the section apply for tag, there's a contract. Read the contract. One of the items on your contract said you need to submit the UC application as well. The tag is not a program. The tag is a preliminary review of your eligibility for transfer admission guarantee at that one campus. So that usually accompany with an actual UC application, because the tag is not a UC application. There's only one UC application ever. Like there's only one UC application. It's the one that we showed you today. That's the only one. The tag is just like, hey, I'm really prepared. Can you give me a guaranteed admission? I want that spot at your school. That's what it does for you as an applicant. So if you submitted a tag to one of the 6 UC campuses, one of the condition is that you have to accompany that tag with that same with the UC application, and you also need to like put in the UC application, the section for the campus choice, like the UC campuses, you have to make sure that you click on Riverside, and you have to click on the major that you're applying, that you submit your tag to. If you apply in one major and then you did the UC application in a different major, your tag is going to get null. And this is not a UC Davis only. This is all UC. This is like tag is, the rule of that is pretty consistent across all of the 6 UC campuses.
Okay, so I have to add that on the UC tab. I have to add the community college, the major on UC tab account.
No, the tab is done because you already submitted a tag, if I heard it correctly.
Yes.
Okay, the tab is done. There's nothing else you can do. Once you submit it, it's frozen. Again, I know I've been doing this for a long time, y'all. So like you don't have to take my words for it. You can go back and look at it yourself if you want to fact check. But you can go to your tab and literally you're gonna try to see if you can edit it. It literally will tell you like, sorry, no, it's done until the process of that tag is done, right? So you're not, once you submit your tag, that's frozen. It's dead. It's frozen. Like you can't change anything. You can't update anything. Anytime that you have anything to update, it needs to be in the UC application. And again, remember, the tag is just a preliminary review. It's a contract. It's not a UC application. So your UC application will trump everything else. Does it make sense? So
Yes.
everything that's in your UC application has to be accurate.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, guys, it's 6:31. I gotta let my folks go. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we will be open again for the next 3 sections. And then there's also PIQ. And again, if you have questions about PIQ, we don't read the PIQ, but once you submit it, we will read that PIQ. But you can get assistant at your writing center at your community college. Utilize those resources, right? So just make sure you do that. And anytime you have any questions, just go ahead and reach out to your assigned UC Davis advisor. Okay. Well, thank you, Isel, for walking us through that. And then also JR, thank you so much for tuning in and helping us with the Q&A. You rock. You both rock. And audience, thank you so much for logging in, engaging with us. I know the UC application is huge and sometimes it can be like tedious, and sometimes you're reading a question and you're like, oh my God, what did I really read, right? So we're here to help you every step of the way. So just, but we don't know if you need help if you don't engage with us, right? So if you know anyone at your school that is struggling with this process, please invite them to engage with us. We're here to help as much as we could, right? As much as we could, because the professional staff like JR and I, we do go on the road a lot. And so we're not always sitting in a place and then like just doing this. This is actually like this is fun. This is fun compared to the real things that we have to do on the daily. So again, thank you everybody for logging in and engaging with us. I hope you have a great weekend. We hope that you have a great weekend. And if you need more help, please come back next week. Okay. See you all later. Have a good day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.